So here in Asia, we are with over a dozen neighbors, and integral to this is the relationships we have with the South China Sea. And you clarified earlier in our earlier segment that Japan is extra regional because
To the South China
to
Sea.
the South China Sea in particular, while China, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia. Did I leave out anyone?
Uh,
That's about it.
yes, that's right.
Well, just a piece of news just came in, which I thought would be relevant to our discussion. President Rodrigo Duterte has ordered the release of Vietnamese nationals recently arrested for poaching in Philippine waters. Justice Aguirre, who joined the Philippine delegation in Vietnam, said the decision of the president is an act of goodwill and so on. So it's not only China. And you were saying there are other nationalities that also get involved in this conflict of rights over the economic potentials of the South China Sea. You mentioned Thailand. I'm not aware that Thailand did a lot of fishing.
I would say that in the region, especially in the South China Sea, the Thailand has the biggest fishing fleet.
Really?
Yes. Of course, they go outside of the South, but within our regional sea, Thailand has the biggest fishing fleet. But talking about poaching, I think that's a very, shall we say, sensitive term in this sense that, yeah, we have other poachers in our waters, in the say South China Sea. We are also poaching in Indonesian waters.
That's right.
And two weeks ago, there was 100 of Filipinos from Bitong repatriated. So poaching happens. But I would like to point it out. How did the Permanent Court of Arbitration call the Scarborough Shoal traditional fishing grounds?
Yes, yes.
That means, and we say that the Scarborough Shoal is within our exclusive economic zone. That shows that even the Permanent Court of Arbitration recognizes the fact that in Scarborough Shoal, within our exclusive economic zone, there are other fishing going on.
Yeah, and of course, in our last discussion, you clarified the issue about a lot about the E2ABA and the arbitration decision.
Okay.
People can refer to that again, as students of the disputes of this South China Sea. It's very important to understand that. Go back to YouTube and our archives, and Ambassador Encomienda explains some of the aspects of the arbitration decision that has been problematic for many countries, including Singapore, as you mentioned before.
Including us internally.
Including us internally, including Japan, because they have their Okino Torishima.
Yeah, okay.
Still island, because it's a structure built on 3 little rocks.
Okay.
But very few people understand this. That is why we are always very happy to have these discussions with Ambassador Encomienda. Now, we were talking about China Sea, and that has been one of the main issues in the past between the Philippines and China. And that's why there are many efforts now under the President Duterte administration to bridge and break the ice, so to speak. First, there was a trip of former President Fidel Ramos, who met with former ambassador to the Philippines, Fu Ying, who is now a senator in the People's Congress, I think.
Yes.
And followed by the Philippine Council for Foreign Relations and Philippine Ambassadors Foundation Incorporated, Track 2, which was given a lot of significance by analysts because the delegation was met by a very high-ranking Chinese government official, which we will go into later on. Now, but people have to, like me, understand what does Track 2 mean. So what's the difference between the first trip of Fidel Ramos and this second Track 2?
Okay. Well, of course, interstate relations began only on official basis, but later on, some unofficial or non-governmental elements came up, and so that is why there is that distinction between purely official government to government, which has come to be known as Track 1, and non-governmental people to people, that including academic interactions.
So that's
that
track
has
2.
become track 2.
Track 1 is government to government,
Yes.
official contact.
Yes.
Track 2 is people to people.
Yes.
But you also say it's not limited to that. It's non-government organizations also.
Yes.
What's the difference between people to people and non-government organizations?
Okay, let me put it this way. Simple. Non-government is outside of government.
Okay.
You know? But normally their advocacies somehow would, on certain subjects would shadow that of the government.
Okay.
People to people, the connotation is mostly cultural. You know, so it goes that way. Actually.
Okay, so yours was track 2, but it is a non-government organization in the terms of the PCFR, the
Yes.
Philippine Council for Foreign Relations, and the Philippine Ambassadors Foundation, Inc. These are organizations,
Yes.
not just which cannot just be classified as people, but
Yes,
they are
that's right.
organizations.
Yes.
So that's why it is called track 2.
Yes.
And what is the counterpart in China? Is it you had an organization also, NGO also,
Yes.
or semi?
It was we met with what was more or less our counterparts, but not in a direct way, because structurally their China Institute for International Studies.
Yes.
That's right. It's differently structured than PCFR, but it could be in some ways it is really of the same complexion.
Yeah, and the CIIS, of course, is one of the top think tanks also of China.
Yes, we were in fact told, if I may point this out, that it was founded by no less than,
Yeah.
Zhou Enlai.
Really? It
So
was
it was-
established
Yes,
by...
Zhou Enlai.
okay.
So that means it was way back then, and the track to direction of China, I would even say, antedated the acceptance of track to elements in human governance. You know.
Okay. And, well, you were part of the delegation that included former ambassadors and military officials, security officials.
Yes.
I think the General Adan was part of your delegation. And so what's the
Yes.
significance of having retired military elements in the delegation? Is there a particular significance there?
No, nothing really. I'm glad you asked that question, because it was the Philippine Council for Foreign Relations.
Okay.
And the structure of the Philippine Council for Foreign Relations is that it is, since foreign relations, runs through a lot of areas, not just a single, direction. So the PCFR has separate clusters, focused clusters like security, diplomacy, and even business and culture.
Okay. And
So the composition of the PCFR was taken from a representation of all these clusters.
and how does this affect our foreign, the incumbent foreign affairs personnel of ours and our military personnel? Is there a hope that this is somehow by osmosis at the very minimum filters, the ideas filter from these discussions, track 2 discussions, also filters into the official community in the Philippine government structure?
I would say that is actually the intention and design. Simply because government to government, they have their own approaches and a culture and these things. That and the track 2 side feels that it may have a more informal, easier approach that needs to be fed to the government track, so it has its own, shall we say, contribution, but it is not exactly, in a way, institutionalized. I mean, it's just floating out there, and each other, it's not a one-way thing from track 2 to track 1, but the track 2 also have to be very aware of what's happening, of course, in track 1.
And you were met you were immediately brought to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That's where you met Vice Minister
Liu Zhenmin, yes,
Liu
that's right.
Zhenmin? Yeah.
Yes.
And so what is the significance of having a Vice Minister meet you?
Number one, when you mentioned that we were brought directly from the airport, there's really no nuance there except that scheduling was a problem.
But you had a red carpet?
Uh, it was always there, and even
Well, it wasn't there for Obama, but anyway, that's just on the side. But yeah, so
the red carpet was in the VIP lounge where we
okay.
were received, so it's
Okay.
there.
Yeah, okay, okay.
No
Yeah.
special significance. But then, the significance you're asking about that we were received by a track one official, yes, I would say that there is important significance there, but not political. I would really interpret it for myself. Of course, Ambassador Romero has made his own report to you, which
Yes.
and which, as the leader for delegation, whose interpretations probably count better, I'm citing my insight. That we were met by a track one high official, simply really it was a signal of China's wanting to reach out to us.
That's right.
And this was established, in fact, even from the dinner we had with the ambassador of China before our departure. It was really a signal for the two countries to reach out. Nothing political in the sense of security or... yes, that's right.
Well, you were explaining to me that a Vice Minister of the Foreign Ministry is not just an undersecretary of the DFA or some departments here. What's the nuance there? What does that mean?
Actually, officially, the Vice Minister is the official counterpart of our Undersecretary. Except that what I can explain there, that's why a lot of attention was given to the personality of Vice Minister Liu Zhenmin, is because of his own stature within the Foreign Ministry and government of China, and in fact the Communist Party. So he might not have the title of a foreign minister, but his overall official stature is way up there than any undersecretary on our part.
Okay. And he seemed to have remembered you from past associations, particularly. Why is this so? Because of your encounters with each other? Yes. Engagement is a better term in many ministerial conferences and such things?
Yes. Okay. Since the year 2000, I've been attending conferences mostly on maritime issues, really, and not political security. And Minister Liu Zhenmin was not vice minister at that time. He was, of course, a much lower figure, and so the interaction is more personal and level. Now, but it was a good one, and that is where precisely I sensed that if we could just strike the right chord with China, a lot of the focus will be maritime. And that is when I got to know Vice Minister Liu Zhenmin, and in fact, he did acknowledge me when we were there.
Well, you mentioned maritime issues, and I was discussing with some colleagues, and this is a bit of a digression, but Filipinos and ASEAN are really maritime peoples and maritime nations, and you're one of the few that focused on maritime studies. But our consciousness seemed to be land-based, and we're missing a lot in our not having a maritime consciousness. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's really a pity that it was that way, because the legal framework and the scientific framework has been there since 1982, when the Law of the Sea Convention was signed. And the Law of the Sea Convention was signed, and the Law of the Sea Convention came into force in 2004, and the South China Sea is a special category under the Law of the Sea Convention, because it is given the designation of an enclosed or semi-enclosed sea. Yeah. Now, in that situation, which essentially it means as exclusive economic zones or territorial seas of maritime countries being connected to each other, in that situation of enclosed, semi-enclosed seas, the riparian states are obliged to cooperate for ocean governance.
What do you call it? Riparian
But
states?
okay, the states surrounding those kind of seas are obliged.
What's a root word of riparian? Would you? It seems to be a very important concept. Yeah, please.
No, I would rather we drop that and
Okay,
just say
sige.
bordering states.
Bordering
That is
states.
the essence.
Okay.
Bordering states of enclosed and semi-enclosed sea, because of the connectivity of the ocean. Under UNCLOS, we must cooperate on ocean governance. Now, the problem with the Spratlys Archipelago, which is in fact among the most sensitive in the world, cooperation did not happen because of territorial conflicts, and we should do a cuts-up.
Well, this digression into the maritime consciousness is triggered by my discussion with Art Lopez and the possibility we discussed of retracing the route of the Sultan of Sulu to China.
Yes.
And of course, your Balangay Foundation, which is named after the sailing ship.
Yes, our ship.
But maybe we'll have to devote one whole discussion on that alone, how to recreate the maritime consciousness amongst Filipinos.
I would really endorse that.
Your Balangay Foundation is at the center of that. Well, we have our last 2-3 minutes, and we wanted to discuss a bit about the ironclad relations with America, but I don't think we have much time.
Okay.
But maybe you can add a minute on the MDT, because Ashton Carter, the U.S. Defense Secretary, seems to believe that that is ironclad and it's still there, while you and some other legal experts have said there is no relevance anymore. Maybe that's where we will end this discussion.
Okay, and very quickly, but I hope we can expand on this next time.
Another session.
The problem there for us is that the Mutual Defense Treaty is seen by other people as clashing with the independent foreign policy of the president. But alliances does not mean lack of independence in foreign policy direction. A sovereign state can enter into alliances anytime, with any country. But the problem with the MDT actually is a lot of things has been built on it, like the VFA, the EDCA, as being based on the Mutual Defense Treaty, which has already expired. Very simply, any treaty has a termination clause. But the Mutual Defense Treaty, the termination clause is indefinite. But all it says, it does not mean that it cannot be terminated. The termination clause in the Mutual Defense Treaty simply says that it will not need any renewal, that is the sense of it, unless either party decides to terminate it. But there is preambular paragraph 4, which describes the purpose of the treaty, and it says it is temporary in nature, subject to a condition that a more organized regional defense arrangement has happened. Then the Mutual Defense Treaty fades out. The problem is the condition has not happened. So that means necessarily, in legal terms, it is no longer there.
Well, we'll have to elaborate on that further for the education of myself and our public. But we've run out of time, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you very much. And that was very good news that the PCFR and PAFI made that track to a visit to China. And that's one giant step again towards bringing back our Asian community as a prosperous and peaceful neighborhood. Maraming salamat, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, join us on our sailing trip again next week on these issues that concern you and me and our Asian community.